I'm willing to bet that you've been on the internet for a while. Some of us are total losers who have invested far too much time and emotions in this stuff, but it could always be worse. There are many people with a deranged, unhealthy attachment to the World Wide Web. Odds are in your many adventures online, you've encountered some of these stunning individuals in passing, probably woefully unaware as to how bizarre their behavior truly is. Eccentric people are everywhere. They're in comment sections, forums, video sharing sites, adult services, personal blogs, and everywhere else in between. These types of unusual people start to pop up more often once you take a gander at children's media, such as cartoons and video games. Simply put, if you like Sonic the Hedgehog or Pokemon, or any other media that features cute animal creatures, you're gonna be in for a really bad time. I've covered some of the most outlandish people in these communities, like Chris Chan and Pamperchew, but there's one guy who I've covered only briefly in the past that really left a mark on society, or rather a brown streak. There is limited documentation on this individual, but their legacy is the stuff of legends. His interactions have been extremely limited, and he's just this kind of lightning in a bottle type person. He's, very unique, in his own special way. Before we get into this, I want to warn everybody watching or listening, this video is going to cover some really disgusting stuff. I mean, some of the worst things you can imagine somebody being stimulated by are likely going to be here. I'm not going to bother warning you before every gross detail is shared, but I will be reading a fair amount of nonsensical smut written by a wacky person. This is the internet, and your best bet is to bite the pillow, cause I'm going in dry. Justin Coolidge, better known by his web handle JustinRPG, was born on August 30th, 1985. He was born with Asperger's, which likely caused him many problems growing up, especially for the time period he was in. From roughly about 2003 to 2008, he attended the Behavioral Education Center in Bangor, Michigan to help him stay on track and to mitigate the effects of his disability. Like many people now in the outcast of yesterday, Justin's special interest is video games. This guy has built his entire life around the consumption of games, related media, and fan-created content. Oh yes, even the worst parts of it. It's not uncommon for people who are part of a fandom to interact with each other, sharing their ideas and inspired content. However, for every bit of normal fanfiction he read in each community he passed through, he strongly preferred adult-oriented media over the tamer stuff. Given that he spent most of his life playing video games and moseying around the information superhighway, his brain has been thoroughly polluted by the worst parts of it. Rule 34 rules his life, for better or worse. Actually, who am I kidding? It's definitely for the worse. Come to think of it, this isn't a problem that is exclusively his, as we can observe the same kind of attachment to revolting media that many people online suffer from. To put it lightly, Justin is just a particularly colorful case. He's our special boy. Justin regularly posts about his deviant behavior and fandoms on his very public Facebook profile. This guy actually posts lengthy stories about porking fictional characters, specific Pokemon, and even creatures from Palworld. Allow me to read you a little bit from a Facebook post he made about Rydia, a character from Final Fantasy. When I am shrunken down and I need to bathe, I must bathe in Rydia's toilet. However, Rydia is allowed to use her toilet to poop and or pee anytime she needs to, even if I am currently bathing in it. This is because it is her toilet. Rydia should not have to wait to use her toilet just because I'm currently bathing in it. It is her toilet. Rydia will poop and pee into her toilet as she needs to, even if I'm currently bathing in it. Since shrunken men are not respected, laws exist solely to make life harder for shrunken me. It is the very reason why it is 100% legal for a normal-sized human to eat and swallow a shrunken man and let him digest alive in their stomach. The law requires shrunken men to bathe for a minimum of 30 minutes in a woman's toilet. This is so that there is a fair chance that the woman will use the toilet while the shrunken man is bathing in it. I could read more, but I also don't hate myself that much, and I suppose you guys are alright too, so I'll spare you some of the most depraved details. For now, anyway. His stunning lack of self-awareness is what makes his perverse interest so hilarious and fascinating. Conversely, he might actually be totally self-aware, but he doesn't care. A recurring trend among eccentric individuals is their affinity for doing nonsensical, backwards, and downright bizarre crap, and they won't feel any sort of shame or embarrassment from it. Isn't it just amazing how people feel no need to self-reflect while your average day-to-day person feels uncomfortable sharing their deepest desires? It's gotta feel freeing to be so forward with your degeneracy. Justin has spent many years building up a backlog of original content, most of it likely not shared with the wider internet. His bizarre interests are brought to life through crude drawings and photoshops he's made, where he superimposes an actual photo of himself with fictional characters that he often thinks about when he's in the tub. Considering the subject matter of his work, we're extremely fortunate that he never drew himself in the act of having intercourse. But who knows, something that awful might be nestled away in his hard drive somewhere. Actually, I guess him being suffocated by a Pokemon's bottom still counts. It just keeps getting worse the more I think about it. You know what? I'm getting far too ahead of myself. Let's continue. Some of his most popular images found online feature him hanging out with various characters from media, most of which he's likely under the impression that he's actively plowing. The man likes what he likes. I guess I can respect that. Mostly, somewhat. A classic image featuring Chikorita sitting on his lap has been spread around the web for donkey's years. I'm not so much interested as why he's taking photos with crudely edited in Pokemon as much as I am with that burger poster in the background. I kinda wanna get one for myself, no joke. Another classic is his romantic photo with Shiva from Final Fantasy VII. It's a shame he couldn't even place his hands on a fictional woman, resorting to the tried and true method of hover-handing. This image right here was actually my introduction to Justin many years ago. It's amazing how time flies. Oh, to go back to a simpler time. See, now I'm getting all emotional thinking about a bygone era. Let's cleanse our palates with some of his writings again, shall we? He's taken a keen interest in Pal World, much like many dorks did as well, but his infatuation goes far deeper. You probably already know just how bad it's gonna get, but hold on to your butt. You're not ready for it. The Pal World update in The Life of Justin Coolidge the game is now live. In this update, travel to the Pal World is now possible. The Pal World update will take me through the sexuality of many Pal monsters in the Pal World. This includes Beacon, the one that is most sought after by me. Having Beacon sit on my face with her cloaca on my mouth is the most pleasurable thing that can happen to me in Pal World. It's such a divine sexual pleasure. Along the way, I will meet and engage in sexual activity with the following pals: Beacon, Eikthrdir, Quivern, Suzaku, Lovender, Galeclaw, Jet Dragon, and more. I will also engage in the following sexual acts with pals: pals sitting on my face, pals peeing into my mouth, me licking pals' vaginas, and me having sex with pals. You know what? Maybe that was a poor choice. My mouth now tastes like shit after having read that. If you haven't figured it out by now, Justin's a bit of a degenerate of sorts. He's got some pretty particular interests that tickle his fancy. One of his most pervasive interests revolves around being swallowed alive by a certain legendary Pokemon. This type of bizarre fascination is called Vor. For those of you who have been fortunate enough to have avoided all of the dirty details of what Vor exactly is, allow me to break it down for you. Vorphilia is a type of paraphilia where someone gets turned on by consuming other living creatures whole or by being consumed themselves. This often isn't depicted with chewing, but rather swallowing their target whole or sucking them into their gut, like a vacuum, with their prey often still alive and waiting to be launched out of their anus, if they even manage to survive digestion. This is unfortunately a thing that is somehow becoming more popular online. I guess people really are that easily influenced. Justin has spent years connecting with other like-minded individuals who want to discuss the nasty things that bounce around in their skulls. He's been known to use Echo's Portal, a website focused on discussions around Vor and Unbirth. Don't worry, I'm not going to explain what Unbirth is. Just consider its name and try to fill in the blanks. You see, Justin really wants to be ingested by Reshiram, the legendary Pokemon introduced in the franchise's 5th generation. This Pokemon stands at a striking 10 foot 6 inches, which means while it's still larger than Justin, it'd still certainly have difficulty eating him unless it unhinged its jaw. Reshiram is usually depicted as a genderless being, so anytime he applies a gender to it, it's likely part of a fetish. I guess the supposed gender ambiguity might make it even hotter for Justin, but it's hard to say without feeling around in his brain, and I really don't feel like doing that. In his eyes, he's actually married to the majestic beast. I guess his perception of reality is heavily built around being romantically involved with animals. We should probably consider ourselves very lucky that he's into fictional creatures instead of readily available pets like cats or dogs. Funny thing to note, but on the previously mentioned site Echo's Portal, Justin's signature on his post is an image of him in Reshiram's stomach, standing happily in the beast's belly as the acid breaks him down. What a way to go! Instead of showing his dedication to his spouse by wearing a ring and changing his relationship status on Facebook, he went the extra mile. He paid someone to permanently inscribe Reshiram onto his body. That's right, he got a tattoo of a goddamn Pokemon on his arm. I'll never understand permanently applying a brand or a fictional character to your body. Can you imagine having to indulge in your child's wacky-ass fantasies because he can't let go of some non-existent godlike being who he also wants to fuck? Living with him must be a hoot and a frickin' holler.
Kinda tiny details in that eye. Good.
How's it looking, Justin?
Good. Wings. One wing's not done yet.
Getting there.
Does the lines take longer or like the fill?
Just depends on the piece.
What do you think on this one?
Despite being married to this majestic behemoth, the two are not actually in a committed relationship. They're allowed to go out, have some fun away from home, that whole ordeal. But Justin still has to return to Reshiram at the end of the day. To put it simply, the door isn't open or shut, but rather ajar. Somewhat related, but Reshiram and Zekrom appeared at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 2010. If Justin was watching the broadcast on his television set, he was probably preoccupied with cranking his hog. All things considered, he probably wasn't the only person doing that to the show either. What a strange world we live in. Justin is often stimulated by creatures or characters that tower over him, not to mention when they can cause serious harm to his body. Since Reshiram is 10 foot 6 inches, it means that it could seriously hurt him if it wanted to. However, Reshiram isn't the only Pokemon who he wants to get down and dirty with. For example, he posted an image and a short bit of text about how Moltres was stuck on his face. Apparently a Venomoth had paralyzed Moltres, leaving her rotund underside on top of Justin's face. I mean, shit, who hasn't had that happen before? Perhaps Justin is really speaking about the core of the human condition. A Venomoth used Stun Spore on Moltres while she was face-sitting me, and now she cannot get off my face. I cannot give Moltres a cherry berry or use Paralyze Heal on Moltres because I am being face-sat by Moltres. Moltres would have to get off my face in order for me to use a Paralyze Heal on her or for me to give her a cherry berry, but Moltres cannot get off my face because she is paralyzed. Another trainer would have to happen to walk through this route and offer a cherry berry to Moltres or use Paralyze Heal on her, but the trainer would most likely not know that Moltres is paralyzed, and the trainer would most likely think we are just doing a sexual act. Aren't these blurbs just so damn heartwarming? I feel especially comfy when he reiterates the same perverse points 3 or 4 times over. Really helps me understand just what the hell is actually going on. It's possible that Justin's interests are aligned with odd assassinophilia, a paraphilia where a person gets aroused by the possibility of them being terminated. Being in immediate danger must get the blood pumping to his loins, even if danger is coming from an animal that literally cannot exist. All of this is surprisingly not the most vile thing he's into. Justin is very much into scat. He's detailed wanting to swim around in a shitty toilet before, and likely wants to be crapped out by a Pokemon or a female character from Final Fantasy, namely Rydia. He has shared photoshopped abominations wherein Moltres, the aforementioned Pokemon, and Rydia, one of his girlfriends, forces him to eat Moltres' excrement. This is actually a common fantasy for anybody who plays modern Pokemon or Final Fantasy, so some of you hardcore fans likely don't see an issue with Justin's thought process. In a thread he created in the Morbid Questions subreddit, Justin inquired about the finer points of ingesting bird shit. In this thread, he shares that he finds it arousing to eat fresh bird duty near the feeder on his deck. In his defense, I think Reddit was likely the best place to ask this question, as the consumption of feces is part of the site's sign-up process. Let's read his post to get a feel for what's going on in that melon of his, whether you really want to or not. I like the sexual aspect of eating fresh bird poop near my feeder on my deck, and if I swipe up the poop and eat it, it has a sweet taste when I put it in my mouth, but after it is swallowed, it leaves a shitty aftertaste even though it initially tasted sweet. I understand the shitty aftertaste because it is poop, but why is it sweet at first and then nasty only after I swallow it? I think it's safe to say that we'll never see Justin as an important figure for human expression. God, after that I need some kind of palate cleanser. As we're all very familiar with now, Justin gets all buttered up, thinking about screwing dangerous, legendary, powerful entities from different media franchises. Reshiram, other legendary Pokemon, and even flame-based entities from the Elder Scrolls. Yeah, I'm dead serious. He wants to pork a Flame Atronach from that franchise. Surprisingly, that species of Daedra is totally fine with Justin sleeping with them, and will generally take away less of his hit points during sexual intercourse. Out of all of the enemies in the Elder Scrolls franchise, I suppose the Flame Atronachs are like sensible, I guess, if you subtract the fact that they're on fire. It could have been a lot worse. He could have said he wanted to fool around with a goblin. I am going to have sex with this female Flame Atronach from Oblivion. I find the Flame Atronachs in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion sexy. However, their body's made up of 87% fire and 100% fire surrounds them. That could kill me if I tried to have sex with one. To remedy this, the Flame Atronach casts a spell on me, making me resistant to fire. Keep in mind, resistant is not the same as immune. I still take damage. It is either 1 point or 0 points of damage for each second I am having sex with her. Just because a particular second caused 0 points of damage does not mean that I did not feel anything. It just means I took no damage. I am not going to rush through having sex with this Flame Atronach. I make sure I pleasure anything I have sex with, especially non-humans. I'd rather take damage than not pleasure the Flame Atronach. Oh yeah, that made a whole lot of fucking sense. At least the Flame Atronachs appear to be human-like and presumably have tits, so that's pretty cool, I guess. One last little disgusting detail that really gets him going is urine. That's right. He's rounding out his trifecta of foul fascinations with another vile interest. Urine is frequently used as a plot device in his stories. Much like real people, the fictional characters that appear in his fantastical tales have to urinate from time to time, including his lovely partner Reshiram. On December 26, 2017, Mr. Coolidge informed his Facebook friends about a time that a sorcerer of sorts used his freaky deaky magic to detect that Justin's wife was urinating, and subsequently transported Justin into Reshiram's bladder under the assumption that it was a human rather than a Pokemon. Justin would ultimately have to wait inside her bladder until he would get pissed out, and since she had just recently popped a squat, it'd be a while before he'd be able to get away. What the hell happens in someone's life that makes them realize that all of this disgusting crap is something they're into? This is such a specific type of thing to get all gooey over. How in the hell do you figure any of this out? People are truly freaking bizarre. I was walking down the street and a magic man said that my wife just urinated, so he sent me to the inside of my wife's bladder. He did not know that my wife was a Reshiram, nor did he know that my wife was not even human. He just knew that she urinated. His magic told him that. He has no clue that he sent me to the bladder of a Reshiram. He just assumes that he sent me to the bladder of some human girl. When I got to my wife's bladder, I find that it is indeed empty. I must now wait for her bladder to fill up with urine so that she can urinate and let me out. When her bladder is full, she will urinate and let me out, unless she has a reason to hold her urine in. Then I will drown in her urine. Keep in mind, Reshiram does not know that I am in her bladder. You know, I was going to say that one also made sense, but somehow they just keep getting more nonsensical. I have no idea what kind of deficit you need to suffer from to understand what the fuck he just said. But I don't know, maybe this perfectly paints a picture of just how much of a stud Justin is, getting all cozy in Reshiram's pee-pee sack. If you can't relate, you ain't a player. Another example of this was a post where he, quote, set up a dragon potty for female dragons. I'm gonna save you the tiniest bit of trauma here and only show you the image that he made. Without going into too many details, in this post, he described setting up a toilet for dragons to do their business, and the only location they should use is his mouth for their, excretions. Consider yourself lucky that I didn't read the entirety of his writings for you. Making this video has scarred me for life. I'm probably gonna need years of therapy to overcome the emotional wounds of reading about his desire to chow down on some dookie. Considering everything we know about Justin, it's safe to assume he has very little shame. I mean, this guy is sharing his innermost thoughts and desires, regardless of how backwards and disgusting they are. It's just that classic trait of being totally shameless that most lolcows have. I'm not the first person to notice this either, as on October 24th, 2017, the unofficially official JustinRPG subreddit was created. The community is small but has experienced bouts of activity from time to time. On the same date as the subreddit's creation, Reddit user of Azure Skies created the thread "So, Justin is in my class," where they divulge in Justin's alleged academic pursuit and general misadventures. I know, I read so much, but did you really expect anything else from me? Let's get right into this. I'm not going to say the name of my college or what city it is located in, but it's in Michigan. I signed up because community college is cheaper and I can get my gen eds out of the way. This is my second semester at this community college. I signed up for public speaking this semester because why the hell not? I have social anxiety, so I figured this would help me somehow. I come into class and sit behind this dude that absolutely smells terrible. I sit behind him the next few classes because I have a good view of the board. I wear glasses, but it soon became too much and I moved across the room from him. This guy is always interrupting our professor while she's speaking. He constantly asks questions without raising his hand and just blurts them out. All he ever talks about is Pokemon. He won't talk about anything else. He mentions having a wife a few times. Me and the class just shrug him off as your typical game-obsessed dude that just so happens to really like Pokemon. Fast forward a couple of weeks and we're giving our speeches on, quote, a topic we're an expert on. We always do vocal warm-ups to loosen our lips and help get rid of anxiety. One of the tongue twisters our professor gave us was pre-shrunk shirts. Pokemon dude blurts out, I know how to say shrunk because I have a shrinking fetish. The class goes dead silent. The professor kind of ignores him and we go forward with the warm-ups. He eventually presents and his topic is none other than Pokemon. He seemed pretty normal at first. An explanation of what legendaries are, the different types, and how to evolve Pokemon. Then he gets to a slide explaining the legendaries more in depth. At this point, the whole class knows Moltres is his favorite Pokemon because it's all he'd ever talk about. Moltres is on the slide to no surprise to no one. Lugia and Reshiram are also up there. I didn't think much of it. They were decent examples of legendary Pokemon. His pictures start to show up on the slide, and that's when we all saw it. Him getting vored by Reshiram. Most of the class is oblivious to what it is along with the professor. A few kids in my class looked at me with wide and knowing eyes. None of us could believe this was actually happening. He finished his speech saying something along the lines of, and next time your Reshiram tells you it's comfortable in her mouth, don't listen to her, she'll swallow you. At this point, I'm in absolute shock this happened. I tweet about it and only mention the shrinking fetish and Reshiram boring him. I made sure not to mention him by name because I'm not that much of an asshole. I get one reply jokingly saying JustinRPG is back, and another asking if the guy's name is Justin. I'm fucking floored because I swear I hadn't mentioned him by name in any of my previous tweets about him. After a bit of explanation from my friend, I find out exactly who JustinRPG is. I listened to one of the videos that my friend sent me that had his voice in it, and yep, that was 100% the Justin in my public speaking class. I am floored that this dude is 1. Real, 2. 31 years old, 3. Goes to my college, and 4. Is in my class. Long story short, Justin publicly revealed his fetishes to a captive classroom of college students, and I just happened to be lucky enough to have some online friends recognize it was him from my tiny description. What the fuck? Take this story however you will. It's likely it's all a crock of shit, but it's fun food for thought if nothing else. It's hard to determine its legitimacy, so I'm going to assume that it has the potential to be true. Nothing more. Moving along, much like other lolcows such as King Cobra JFS, Justin's actually tried his hand at music, but it's about the same quality as his artwork, being total wet shit. His music is just parodies of existing songs. His poorly strung together lyrics are thrown over a karaoke backing track or something he produced in a free audio editing software. Regardless, his music is crap across the board, with every song sounding like an auditory abortion from the depths of hell. From what I was able to find, Justin put out 4 albums. There wasn't much differentiating the projects, but they're all of the same quality. His albums were the following: Linear Pair of Angles, Linear Pair of Angles 2, Linear Pair of Angles 3, Substance. I gotta admit, Linear Pair of Angles is such a good album name. I'm shocked nobody else has used it before him. 3 of his 4 albums, a Linear Pair of Angles series, have unique artwork accompanying them that was put together in some kind of image manipulation software. It's safe to assume that graphic design definitely isn't his passion. My favorites have to be Linear Pairs 1 and 3. The first album is just a modification of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. As badass as the original artwork was, Justin's version where he shoehorns his face over the prism really improves it. This is how you market a quality product. The other one, Part 3, features Justin's head over the baby on Lil Wayne's The Carter 3 album. This, right here, is the funniest goddamn image Justin ever shit out. Sure, the comics and crude images he's produced are hilarious on their own, but there's something about his head on that little baby's body that sends my sides into orbit. Other lolcows who make music should take notes. These hilarious covers make the albums 10 times better. It doesn't make them any more listenable, but at least we get something cool to look at. Some of his classics are, but certainly aren't limited to, I Love Reshiram.
I love Reshiram. I love Reshiram.
I Hate This Windows Vista Tonight.
I hate this Windows Vista tonight. Blue screens.
If You Don't Like My Wife.
So you can get hit by blue flare if you don't like my wife. Cause I love my Pokemon wife, so get hit by blue flare.
12 Legendary Pokemon of Christmas.
On the first day of Christmas, the Pokemon Master sent to me from Sweetwood under the tree. On the second day of Christmas, the Pokemon Master sent to me 2 Latias networks and a Sweetwood under a tree.
These are some of the standout tracks, but every single one is verifiably ass. It's honestly impressive that he was able to put out something that stinks this bad, but at the same time, it's just bad enough to warrant some airtime on the radio. Maybe one day our standards will drop just low enough to allow Justin's work to hit the airwaves. I'm sure we're not too far off now. With all of these tracks in mind, I gotta ask, who in the actual fuck is this for? Who honestly wants to listen to this? Who did he intend to entertain with his discography? The quality is dog shit across the board, and he has previously attempted to remove some of his music from the web, likely due to embarrassment, so he has to know that nobody actually likes his work. Ah shit, who am I kidding? I'm an idiot. His music solely serves to please his desires and potentially stimulate whatever Pokemon or magical deity is trying to slide his meat into. His music is what really put him on the map, as YouTube's algorithm shined its magnificent holy light on his content, sending him into the feeds of thousands of unsuspecting internet denizens who would inevitably end up pointing their fingers and laughing. Upon realizing his infamy was growing, Justin fled the internet for the most part, leaving up only a handful of accounts to be observed. Justin made the smartest move that he could have. He removed himself from the situation, at least for the most part. He couldn't just not talk about the perverse topics that he's into, but he heavily drew back in order to protect himself from unwavering scrutiny. All things considered, he can't be that dumb if he picked up on the potential danger that could have been coming his way. To this day, he continues to periodically post his deranged ramblings onto social media, likely to gratify his own desires. But he's harmless. He's not hurting anybody, and he's probably not going to do anything that is actually bad. But it's fun to know that eccentric people like him are just floating around out there. The human race, for all of its many faults, is quite the fascinating thing, isn't it? I just love unusual people, and I hope this video made you smile, even if it was just a lot of potty humor. But that being said, that's going to be it for today's video. If you like what I do, leave a comment, rate, and subscribe. If you want to support me in a more personal way, you can check out the Patreon link and the Teespring link in the description. The Patreon features plenty of behind-the-scenes content, and the merch store has posters, stickers, and apparel on offer, just in case if you wanted people in your area to know that you're a loser. But I digress. I've got more content coming down the pipeline. But until then, I'll see you degenerates next time.